Every day, people tell you exactly who they are, but not through their words. Words are easy to control. They can be rehearsed, polished, and carefully chosen to create the perfect impression. Actions are different. They require consistency, and consistency is something very few people can fake for long. If you want to read people like a book before you trust them, the first lesson is simple but powerful. Stop listening to what people promise and start studying the patterns they repeatedly create. Human nature always reveals itself through behavior, long before it reveals itself through confession. Robert Greene teaches that the greatest observers are never hypnotized by charm. They understand that first impressions are often performances. Most people instinctively present the version of themselves they want others to believe. They smile, compliment you, agree with your opinions, and tell you exactly what you want to hear. None of this automatically means they are dishonest. It simply means that every human being manages the image they present to the world. The mistake is believing that image without looking for evidence behind it. The smartest people know that trust should never be built on a good conversation. It should be built on consistent behavior over time. Think about how easily someone can say, "You can trust me." Those 4 words require almost no effort, but proving them requires patience, honesty, responsibility, and consistency across many different situations. That is why actions carry more weight than promises. Anyone can make a commitment when nothing is being tested. Character only becomes visible when keeping that commitment requires sacrifice. This is why reading people begins with observation instead of emotion. Before you believe what someone says, ask yourself a different question. What do they repeatedly do? Patterns reveal character far more accurately than isolated moments ever can. Many people are deceived because they fall in love with potential instead of reality. They hear inspiring words, imagine a bright future, and begin trusting someone before collecting enough evidence to justify that trust. Human nature makes this mistake because emotions often move faster than logic. When we like someone, our minds naturally search for reasons to confirm our positive impression while ignoring warning signs. Robert Greene reminds us that emotion can cloud judgment if it is allowed to replace observation. The wiser approach is to slow down. Let people reveal themselves naturally instead of rushing to decide who they are. One of the clearest signs of a trustworthy person is consistency. Notice whether their actions match their words not once, but repeatedly. Do they respect your time after saying they value it? Do they keep small promises as carefully as they make big ones? Do they remain honest even when lying would be easier? These details may seem insignificant, but together they form a pattern, and patterns are what truly define people. A single good action can be accidental. A repeated pattern becomes character. There is another reason why studying patterns is so important. Most people can maintain a false image for a short period of time. They can appear patient, generous, confident, or loyal when they know they are being observed. But maintaining a false personality requires constant effort. Eventually, real habits begin replacing rehearsed behavior. The impatient person loses patience. The dishonest person begins making excuses. The selfish person eventually places their own interests first. Human nature always seeks comfort, and pretending to be someone else is exhausting. Time becomes the greatest ally of anyone who chooses observation over assumption. This is why truly wise people never feel pressured to trust quickly. They understand that patience protects them from unnecessary disappointment. Instead of rushing to label someone as loyal or trustworthy, they quietly collect information. They notice how a person reacts to success, failure, inconvenience, and disagreement. They compare today's behavior with yesterday's behavior instead of being distracted by today's words. This approach does not make them cynical, it makes them perceptive. They are not expecting the worst from people. They are simply allowing reality to reveal itself before making important decisions. Another mistake people often make is allowing charm to replace evidence. Charm is attractive because it creates emotional comfort. A charismatic person may speak confidently, make you feel important, and quickly create a sense of connection. But charm and character are not the same thing. Some of the most trustworthy people are quiet, while some of the most persuasive people hide selfish intentions behind attractive personalities. This is why Robert Greene encourages observing what people consistently choose when no one is watching. Character is not what someone performs in public. Character is what they repeatedly practice in private. The more you study patterns, the less easily you can be manipulated. You stop making decisions based on excitement alone. You begin noticing contradictions between words and actions. You recognize promises that are never fulfilled. You identify habits that repeat despite repeated apologies. Instead of asking yourself whether someone seems trustworthy, you begin asking whether their behavior has consistently earned your trust. That single shift changes everything. It protects your peace, your time, and your emotional well-being. Learning to read people is not about becoming suspicious of everyone you meet. It is about becoming patient enough to let the truth reveal itself. Everyone leaves clues through their daily behavior. Some reveal loyalty. Others reveal dishonesty. Some demonstrate integrity. Others expose inconsistency. The difference is not in what they say. The difference is in what they repeatedly do. Once you begin paying attention to patterns instead of promises, you stop trusting appearances and start understanding reality. And once you learn to study people's patterns instead of their words, the next lesson reveals an even deeper truth. If you want to know someone's real character, watch how they treat people who have nothing to offer them. After learning to ignore charming words and focus on consistent patterns, the next step allows you to read people with even greater accuracy. If you truly want to read people like a book before you trust them, stop paying attention only to how they treat you. Instead, carefully observe how they treat people who have nothing to offer them. This is where masks begin to disappear. Most people naturally behave well toward those they want something from. They are polite to influential people, generous to those they admire, and respectful toward individuals who can benefit their lives. But genuine character is revealed when there is nothing to gain. The way a person treats someone who cannot improve their status, wealth, or reputation often tells you more than 100 conversations ever could. Human nature has a remarkable way of exposing itself in ordinary moments. Many people believe they can hide their true personality through carefully chosen words, but habits eventually speak louder than intentions. Watch how someone speaks to a waiter after receiving the wrong order. Notice how they respond to a cleaner, a security guard, or a stranger asking for directions. Observe how they react to elderly people, children, or coworkers who hold no authority over them. These interactions are rarely rehearsed. They happen naturally, and because of that, they often reveal the person's real attitude toward others. One of the biggest mistakes people make before trusting someone is judging them only by the way they are treated personally. This creates a dangerous illusion. If someone wants your friendship, your love, your loyalty, or your support, they will naturally present their best version. They will compliment you, make time for you, and appear deeply interested in everything you say. But this behavior alone tells you very little about who they truly are. Anyone can behave well when there is a reward waiting at the end. The real question is different. How do they behave when there is absolutely nothing to gain? That answer will often protect you from trusting the wrong person. Pay close attention to small acts of disrespect that many people ignore. Does this person constantly interrupt others but expect everyone to listen when they speak? Do they become impatient with people who work in service jobs while remaining extremely polite toward wealthy or influential individuals? Do they only show kindness when someone is watching? These details may seem insignificant, but together they create a pattern. And if you have learned anything from observing human behavior, it is that patterns always reveal more truth than isolated events. Another powerful place to observe character is how someone talks about people who are not present. Listen carefully during casual conversations. If a person constantly criticizes friends behind their backs, spreads private information, or enjoys humiliating others for entertainment, ask yourself an important question. If they speak this way about others today, what will stop them from speaking this way about you tomorrow? Many people ignore this warning because they assume they are somehow different. Unfortunately, behavior is usually consistent. Someone who repeatedly betrays the trust of others often repeats the same habit wherever they go. Notice how people respond when they hold even a small amount of power. Power has a unique ability to reveal hidden qualities. A person who becomes arrogant the moment they gain authority is showing you something important about their character. They may have hidden that arrogance while trying to impress others, but power simply removed the need to pretend. This is why observing people in different situations is so valuable. The more environments you witness, the clearer the picture becomes. Patience is your greatest advantage during this process. Many people rush to trust because they feel excited by first impressions. Excitement creates emotional shortcuts. Instead of gathering evidence, they rely on feelings. But reading people like a book requires slowing down. Allow enough time to observe how someone behaves with family members, colleagues, strangers, and people who disagree with them. One interaction may be misleading, but repeated observations rarely are. The truth has a way of repeating itself. There is also a difference between occasional mistakes and established habits. Every person has difficult days. Someone may become impatient once because of stress or exhaustion. That single moment should not define them. Instead, ask yourself whether the behavior keeps returning. Is kindness their normal habit or only an occasional performance? Is respect part of their character, or does it disappear whenever circumstances change? Learning to separate temporary emotion from permanent character is one of the greatest skills you can develop before placing your trust in anyone. People who genuinely possess integrity do not change their values depending on who stands in front of them. They treat successful people with respect, but they offer the same respect to those who cannot benefit them in any way. Their kindness is not selective, their honesty is not conditional, their character remains stable, whether they are speaking to a powerful executive or a complete stranger. This consistency is one of the strongest signs that someone deserves your trust. The more carefully you observe how people treat those from whom they have nothing to gain, the less likely you are to be deceived by charm, status, or appearances. You stop making decisions based on impressive conversations and begin relying on visible evidence. Over time, you develop the ability to recognize character long before trust becomes necessary. That single habit can protect your peace, your relationships, and your future from countless disappointments. And once you learn to judge people by the way they treat others, the next lesson will teach you how their emotional reactions expose hidden motives that words are carefully designed to conceal. By now, you have learned that actions matter more than words, and that the way people treat those who cannot benefit them reveals their true character. But there is another layer of human nature that many people completely overlook. If you truly want to read people like a book before you trust them, learn to study their emotional reactions instead of their carefully prepared explanations. Emotions are far more difficult to control than words. A person may hide their intentions behind a smile, but their emotions often expose what they are trying to keep hidden. The smartest observers know that people's strongest feelings frequently reveal their deepest motives. Most people spend years becoming skilled at saying the right things. They know how to sound confident, loyal, honest, and caring. But emotions do not always follow the same script. When someone feels jealous, threatened, rejected, embarrassed, or insecure, their real personality often appears for a brief moment. These moments are easy to miss if you are only listening to what they say. But if you begin watching how they react under different emotional situations, you will start noticing patterns that reveal who they truly are before you place your trust in them. Pay close attention to how someone reacts when another person succeeds. This is one of the clearest windows into human nature. A secure person can celebrate another person's achievements without feeling personally diminished. They offer genuine congratulations because someone else's success does not threaten their identity. An insecure person often reacts differently. They may pretend to be happy while immediately changing the subject. They may minimize the achievement, criticize it, or search for reasons why it is not impressive. Sometimes they disguise envy as advice or humor. These reactions are rarely planned. They are emotional responses that quietly expose hidden feelings. If someone struggles to celebrate the success of others, Be careful before trusting them with your own future victories. Another emotion worth observing is defensiveness. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone responds to them in the same way. When a trustworthy person receives respectful criticism, they may feel uncomfortable, but they are usually willing to reflect on their actions. Someone who constantly refuses responsibility often reacts with immediate excuses, blame, or anger. They transform every conversation into an attempt to protect their image rather than discover the truth. If a person cannot accept accountability for small mistakes, imagine how they may respond when faced with much bigger problems. Their emotional reaction is already telling you what their words never will. Watch how people handle disappointment. Plans change. Expectations fail. Life becomes unfair. These moments remove emotional comfort and reveal emotional discipline. Does the person remain respectful even when things do not go their way? Or do they become rude, impatient, and hostile? Someone who completely changes their personality the moment they are frustrated is showing you something important. Their kindness may only exist while life is convenient. Real character becomes visible when comfort disappears. Jealousy is another emotion that quietly reveals hidden motives. Many people believe jealousy always appears through obvious anger, but it often takes much subtler forms. A jealous person may constantly compare themselves with others. They may secretly compete with friends instead of supporting them. They may become distant after your success or begin pointing out your flaws immediately after something good happens in your life. These emotional shifts are valuable information. Instead of ignoring them because they make you uncomfortable, learn from them. Reading people requires observing what changes inside them when circumstances change around them. There is also great wisdom in observing how someone reacts when they lose control of a situation. Some people remain calm and search for solutions. Others immediately become manipulative, aggressive, or emotionally unpredictable. These reactions are not random. They reveal how a person handles pressure, uncertainty, and frustration. The goal is not to judge someone for experiencing emotion. Everyone experiences fear, sadness, and disappointment. The difference lies in how they manage those emotions. Emotional maturity is one of the strongest signs that someone deserves your trust. Be especially careful of excessive flattery. Genuine appreciation feels natural and specific. Manipulative praise often feels constant, exaggerated, and perfectly timed. Some people use compliments to lower your defenses before asking for something they want. They study your desires, tell you exactly what you hope to hear, and create the illusion of instant connection. If you only listen to the compliments, you may miss the motive behind them. Instead of becoming attached to praise, ask yourself whether the person's actions continue matching their words long after the compliments have faded. One of the greatest mistakes people make is reacting emotionally while trying to understand someone else's emotions. If you become offended too quickly, excited too quickly, or emotionally attached too quickly, your own feelings begin interfering with your observations. Reading people requires patience and emotional control. Instead of immediately judging or trusting, simply observe. Let emotional reactions repeat themselves over time. One isolated moment rarely tells the whole story, but repeated emotional patterns almost always reveal the truth. Remember that the goal is not to become suspicious of everyone you meet. The goal is to become aware enough to recognize genuine character before giving away your trust. People continuously reveal themselves through the emotions they cannot fully hide. Joy, envy, gratitude, anger, insecurity, humility, and compassion all leave visible traces in behavior. The more carefully you observe these emotional patterns, the more accurately you will understand who deserves a place in your life. And once you learn how emotional reactions expose hidden motives, the next lesson will show you why the wisest people never give trust freely. They allow others to earn it one small step at a time. Now that you understand how emotional reactions reveal hidden motives, the next lesson changes the way you build every relationship in your life. If you truly want to read people like a book before you trust them, never give trust all at once. Trust should never be a gift handed to someone simply because they seem kind, confident, or convincing. It should be something they earn through consistent actions over time. The wisest people understand that trust is built in stages, not in moments. They do not assume someone deserves complete access to their life after a few pleasant conversations. Instead, they quietly allow people to prove who they are through repeated choices. One of the biggest reasons people end up feeling betrayed is because they confuse comfort with trust. They spend a few enjoyable hours with someone, feel emotionally connected, and believe they have discovered a loyal friend or trustworthy partner. But comfort is not evidence. Excitement is not evidence. Chemistry is not evidence. These feelings can appear long before someone's true character becomes visible. Human nature enjoys certainty, which is why many people rush to form conclusions before gathering enough information. They want to believe they have found someone they can rely on. Unfortunately, trust built on hope instead of observation often leads to disappointment. Imagine meeting someone who immediately shares your interests, agrees with your opinions, and makes you feel understood. It is natural to enjoy that connection. But instead of asking, "Do I like this person?" ask a more important question. Have they consistently demonstrated that they deserve my trust? That simple shift protects you from making decisions based on emotion alone. Reading people like a book requires patience because character cannot be accurately measured in a single conversation. It reveals itself through time, consistency, and repeated situations. One of the smartest habits you can develop is giving people small opportunities to demonstrate reliability before giving them larger responsibilities. Notice whether they keep simple commitments. If they promise to call, do they follow through? If they borrow something, do they return it without excuses? If they make a mistake, do they admit it honestly, or do they immediately begin blaming others? These small moments may seem insignificant, but they are actually powerful tests of character. People who cannot be trusted with small responsibilities rarely become trustworthy when the responsibilities become greater. Many people believe trust means assuming the best in everyone. In reality, healthy trust means allowing reality to guide your decisions. This does not require becoming suspicious or cynical. It simply means refusing to ignore evidence. If someone repeatedly breaks promises, arrives late without explanation, changes their story, or only contacts you when they need something, those behaviors deserve attention. The mistake is not that the warning signs were invisible. The mistake is often that emotions convinced you to overlook them. Another important principle is to observe how someone responds when your trust is temporarily limited. Emotionally mature people understand that trust takes time. They do not pressure you to reveal personal information before you are ready. They do not become offended because you choose to move slowly. Instead, they respect your pace because they know genuine relationships are built through consistency rather than urgency. Manipulative individuals often behave differently. They try to create instant closeness, encourage you to share deeply personal details too quickly, or make you feel guilty for being cautious. Their goal is often to lower your defenses before you have enough information to judge their character accurately. Pay attention to whether a person's actions remain consistent across different circumstances. It is easy to appear trustworthy when everything is going well, but what happens when plans change, when disagreements arise, or when keeping a promise becomes inconvenient? This is where real character becomes visible. Trustworthy people continue acting with honesty even when it costs them something. They keep their word because integrity matters more to them than convenience. People who abandon their principles the moment life becomes difficult reveal that their reliability depends entirely on favorable conditions. Patience is one of your greatest forms of protection. Many people fear taking relationships slowly because they worry they might lose opportunities. But rushing trust often creates far greater losses than waiting ever could. Time allows hidden habits to surface. It exposes inconsistencies that excitement tries to ignore. It gives you enough experiences to recognize whether someone's behavior reflects genuine character or temporary performance. The truth has a remarkable way of revealing itself to those who are patient enough to watch. Another valuable habit is separating words from proof. Someone may repeatedly tell you they are loyal, honest, or dependable. Those statements are meaningless until supported by action. Instead of asking what someone believes about themselves, observe what their daily choices communicate. Do they consistently respect your boundaries? Do they protect your confidence? Do they remain dependable even when no one is watching? Actions create evidence. Words create expectations. Wise people build trust only on evidence. Remember that trust is not something you owe another person simply because they desire it. It is something they earn by demonstrating reliability again and again. This mindset protects your peace without making you cold. It allows you to remain open to meaningful relationships while refusing to ignore clear warning signs. Over time, this approach helps you recognize dependable people more accurately because your decisions are based on observation rather than emotional impulse. The people who avoid unnecessary betrayal are rarely the ones with extraordinary luck. They are usually the ones who understand that trust is a process, not a feeling. They move forward with kindness, but they allow consistency to determine confidence. By doing this, they avoid giving complete access to people who have never truly earned it. And once you understand why trust should always be earned gradually, the next lesson will reveal how pressure exposes the parts of a person's character that comfort can easily hide. By now, you have learned to study patterns instead of promises, observe how people treat those who cannot benefit them, understand the meaning behind emotional reactions, and allow trust to be earned over time instead of giving it away too quickly. But there is one lesson that reveals a person's true character faster than almost anything else. If you want to read people like a book before you trust them, watch what they do when life places them under pressure. Comfort allows people to maintain appearances. Pressure removes those appearances. When circumstances become difficult, the personality someone has carefully managed often gives way to the character they have always carried inside. Anyone can appear calm, generous, and patient when everything is going according to plan. It is easy to smile when life is comfortable. It is easy to be polite when every desire is being fulfilled. But human nature changes when expectations are challenged. A delayed opportunity, a disagreement, a personal failure, or an unexpected obstacle can quickly reveal qualities that remained hidden during easier times. This is why wise observers never judge someone solely by who they are when life is easy. They patiently wait to see who that person becomes when life becomes difficult. Pay attention to how someone responds when they do not get what they want. This moment often reveals more truth than years of pleasant conversations. Do they remain respectful even after hearing the word no? Or does their attitude suddenly become cold, impatient, or manipulative? Some people only appear kind while their expectations are being met. The moment reality disappoints them, their behavior changes completely. They become defensive, controlling, or disrespectful because the kindness they displayed was never rooted in character. It was rooted in convenience. Learning to recognize this difference protects you from trusting people whose values disappear the moment life becomes uncomfortable. Failure is another powerful test of character. Everyone experiences setbacks, but not everyone responds to them with the same level of maturity. Some people accept responsibility, learn from their mistakes, and continue moving forward without blaming others. Others immediately search for excuses. They blame circumstances, coworkers, friends, or even strangers for every problem they encounter. If someone refuses to accept responsibility during small failures, imagine how they may behave when facing much greater challenges. Their reaction is already showing you whether accountability is part of their character or simply something they expect from everyone else's successes can be just as revealing as failure. Many people believe difficult times expose character, but success often does the same. Watch how someone behaves after receiving recognition, power, or influence. Do they remain humble and respectful, or do they suddenly begin treating others as if they are less important? Power has a remarkable ability to expose attitudes that were hidden during periods of equality. A person who becomes arrogant the moment they gain authority is showing you that humility was never deeply rooted within them. They were simply waiting for an opportunity to reveal who they truly were. Conflict is another moment where real character becomes impossible to hide. Every relationship eventually experiences disagreement. The question is not whether conflict will happen. The question is how someone chooses to handle it. Do they listen with patience even when they disagree? Are they willing to search for solutions instead of trying to win every argument? Or do they immediately attack, insult, manipulate, or refuse to communicate? Reading people like a book requires paying close attention during these moments because conflict removes the comfort that often hides emotional habits. Someone who remains respectful during disagreement is showing a level of emotional maturity that deserves attention. Observe how people respond when they are placed under unexpected stress. Perhaps plans suddenly change, an important opportunity disappears, or an unexpected inconvenience interrupts their day. These situations often happen without warning, leaving little time to prepare a perfect response. That is why they reveal so much. A person who can adapt calmly demonstrates emotional discipline. Someone who instantly becomes hostile, impatient, or cruel may be revealing emotional instability that was invisible during more comfortable moments. Another important detail is whether someone protects their values when pressure increases. Integrity becomes meaningful only when honesty carries a cost. It is easy to tell the truth when nothing is at risk. It becomes much harder when honesty requires sacrifice. Watch whether a person remains loyal to their principles even when shortcuts appear attractive. Do they keep promises that have become inconvenient? Do they remain fair when no one would notice dishonesty? Character is not measured by easy decisions. It is measured by difficult ones. One mistake many people make is feeling sorry for someone during difficult moments while ignoring the behavior those moments reveal. Compassion is important, but compassion should never replace observation. Everyone deserves understanding during hardship, yet hardship should not excuse repeated dishonesty, manipulation, or disrespect. You can empathize with someone's struggles while still recognizing unhealthy patterns. True wisdom comes from balancing kindness with clear judgment. The more carefully you observe people under pressure, the less dependent you become on first impressions. You stop assuming that someone's public image represents their private character. Instead, you allow difficult situations to reveal qualities that comfortable circumstances often conceal. Over time, this habit strengthens your judgment because you begin recognizing consistency instead of temporary performance. The people who earn lasting trust are not those who appear perfect when life is easy. They are the ones who remain honest during temptation, respectful during disagreement, patient during frustration, and responsible during failure. Pressure does not create these qualities. It simply reveals whether they were there all along. Once you begin looking beyond appearances and paying attention to behavior under pressure, you will understand people with a depth that very few ever achieve. And once you learn how pressure reveals a person's true character, the final lesson will show you why mastering observation before emotional attachment is the ultimate key to protecting your trust and making wiser decisions throughout your life. Everything you have learned so far leads to one final principle that brings every lesson together. You have learned to study patterns instead of promises, observe how people treat those who cannot benefit them, understand the meaning behind emotional reactions, allow trust to be earned gradually, and recognize how pressure exposes true character. But none of these skills will protect you if you become emotionally attached before you have finished observing. If you truly want to read people like a book before you trust them, you must master the ability to observe first and become emotionally invested later. This single habit separates people who repeatedly fall into disappointment from those who make wise decisions about the relationships they allow into their lives. Human nature naturally seeks connection. We all want to feel understood, accepted, and valued. Because of this desire, emotions often move much faster than judgment. A person enters your life, says the right things, shares similar interests, and makes you feel important. Within a short time, you begin imagining a lasting friendship, a successful partnership, or a deep relationship. The emotional connection grows before enough evidence has been collected. Once that attachment forms, something dangerous happens. Instead of seeing the person as they truly are, you begin seeing them as you hope they will be. Hope slowly replaces observation, and emotion begins defending choices that logic would question. This is why patience is one of the greatest forms of wisdom. Patience gives reality enough time to reveal itself. It allows you to see whether today's impressive behavior becomes tomorrow's consistent habit or simply fades away once the excitement disappears. Many people mistake patience for hesitation, but they are completely different. Hesitation comes from fear. Patience comes from discipline. A patient observer is not afraid to build relationships. They simply understand that trust built slowly is far stronger than trust built quickly. One of the clearest signs of emotional maturity is the ability to remain curious without becoming attached too soon. Instead of immediately deciding that someone is trustworthy, ask yourself questions. How do they behave over time? Do their actions continue matching their words? Do they remain consistent in different environments? Do they respect boundaries without complaint? Every answer becomes another page in the book you are learning to read. Eventually, those pages form a complete picture. The person no longer needs to tell you who they are because their behavior has already answered the question. Silence also becomes one of your greatest tools. Most people believe reading others requires asking endless questions, but careful observation often reveals much more than conversation. When you speak less and watch more, you begin noticing details that usually go unnoticed. You observe body language during uncomfortable moments. You notice whether someone listens or constantly interrupts. You recognize whether they become different around different groups of people. These quiet observations create understanding that no amount of persuasive words can replace. Another mistake people often make is confusing emotional intensity with genuine connection. A relationship that develops very quickly can feel exciting, but excitement alone should never become the foundation of trust. Manipulative people often create instant closeness because they understand that emotional attachment weakens careful judgment. They encourage oversharing, promise lifelong loyalty within days, and create the illusion that you have known each other forever. If you allow excitement to replace observation, you may miss warning signs that become obvious only with time. Learning to slow down protects you from becoming emotionally committed before someone's true character has been revealed. Notice how your own emotions influence the way you judge people. Loneliness, excitement, admiration, and hope can all distort perception. When we desperately want someone to be trustworthy, we naturally ignore evidence that suggests otherwise. This is why self-awareness is just as important as understanding others. Reading people begins with managing your own emotions first. The calmer your mind becomes, the clearer your judgment will be. Emotional discipline allows you to observe without rushing, to question without becoming suspicious, and to trust without becoming naive. There is another important truth many people overlook. Not everyone who enters your life deserves permanent access to it. Some people are meant to teach lessons rather than become lifelong companions. Accepting this reality makes observation much easier because you stop feeling pressured to force every relationship into something deeper. You become comfortable allowing people to reveal whether they truly belong in your life. Those who consistently demonstrate honesty, respect, humility, and integrity naturally earn your confidence. Those who repeatedly reveal inconsistency quietly remove themselves from consideration without unnecessary drama. The goal is not to become emotionally distant or distrustful. The goal is to become intentional. You can remain open-hearted while still protecting your peace. You can believe in the goodness of people without ignoring clear evidence. You can offer kindness while allowing trust to develop naturally instead of instantly. This balance creates healthier relationships because they are built on reality rather than imagination. When you master observation before emotional attachment, you stop chasing appearances and start recognizing substance. You no longer become easily impressed by charm, status, confidence, or beautiful words. Instead, you value consistency, humility, emotional stability, and integrity because those qualities survive the test of time. The people who truly deserve your trust will never fear your patience. In fact, they will respect it because they understand that genuine character has nothing to hide. The greatest protection against betrayal is not becoming suspicious of everyone. It is becoming wise enough to let people reveal themselves before giving them your complete trust. Once you develop this habit, you will begin making better decisions, building stronger relationships, and avoiding many of the disappointments that come from trusting appearances instead of character. And that is how you truly learn to read people like a book before you trust them.